So what is the first legal principle that the courts apply when dividing assets between divorcing spouses? The first principle is contribution. Let us talk about contribution. It is not about who owns what property on paper. The Zimbabwean law consider both direct and indirect contribution. Hi everyone, welcome to our discussion today. My name is Chikwetu. I am a lawyer based in Harare, Zimbabwe. You know, divorce is never easy, and one of the stressing aspects is figuring out how to divide your property. In this video, I am going to break down the five key principles that the courts apply when dividing assets between divorcing spouses. These five key principles or five key legal principles are a must-know for anyone who is involved in a divorce process. Because when you understand these principles, you can now know your rights and be able to approach the process with confidence. At the same time, I'm going to share with you in this video one of the examples of cases that was decided in our Supreme Court where these five key principles were applied. I'm going to share with you in a very concise way the case and the legal principles that were applied in that case. At the same time, I'm also going to share with you some practical tips on how you are supposed to approach the process of property division when you are divorcing with your spouse. It's very important that you understand that. At the same time, I'm also going to share with you the costly mistakes that you are supposed to avoid when you are involved in a divorce process. So first of all, I'm going to deal with the five principles and then go to the other aspects that I have alluded to. Before I share with you the first principle, I just want to invite you to subscribe to our channel. I have seen that a lot of you are viewing the videos, but you are forgetting to subscribe to the channel. So what is the first legal principle that the courts apply when dividing assets between divorcing spouses? The first principle is contribution. Let us talk about contribution. It is not about who owns what property on paper. The Zimbabwean law consider both direct and indirect contribution. Direct contribution is very easy to establish. For example, you can actually bring some financial documents that can show evidence of ownership, like receipts, invoices, title deeds, and some other documentary evidence that is acceptable, which can show evidence of ownership. What about indirect contribution? That's where the matters get interesting. Indirect contribution are unseen activities performed by one of the spouses for the upkeep of the family or for the running of the family. These activities include things like cleaning the house, preparing food, washing clothes, taking care of children, and the general management of the households. And these activities are performed by one of the spouses. And in majority of cases, if you read court cases, you can actually find that majority of these indirect contribution are normally done by the wife. The most difficult thing about indirect contribution is that you cannot be able to attach a monetary value to them. But what is interesting is that the courts now attach value to indirect contribution, even if these activities will not result in a paycheck that is brought at home. So how do the courts attach a monetary value to indirect contribution? The next principle is going to assist us in understanding the way in which the courts attach a value to indirect contribution. So I encourage you to be with us in the next segment as I share principles that is applied by the courts when attaching a value to indirect contribution. Once again, I encourage you to subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell so that whenever I upload a video like this, YouTube will be able to notify you. I encourage you to be part of this great community by subscribing. So what is our second legal principle that the courts use? The courts will look at the duration of the marriage. Generally, the longer the marriage, the greater the weight that the courts attach to indirect contribution. Imagine a couple married for 20 years and one which is married for 5 years. A spouse who is dedicated to his or her home for a longer period have got a greater case for a fair share of the matrimonial property, even if he or she has not contributed much to the acquisition or maintenance of the property. What is important to note about this principle is that each case will be decided based on the circumstances and the merits. This is not one size fits all. The courts will look at the circumstances of each case and the merits of each case before it applies these principles. If you want to understand into detail these principles, I encourage you to go to the description of this description box of this video. You'll find a link where I shared an article that I have written to greater lengths discussing about this principle. This article is found on the blogger on Google. Then before I move on to discuss the next principle that the courts apply when sharing property between the spouses, I encourage you once again to subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell, and another thing that I also encourage you is to like the video and also ask questions. You can ask questions in the comment section. You can also share your views about the subject matter we are discussing here. If you feel that your issue or your case cannot be discussed in the comment section, there are numbers that are showing on the screen. You can get in touch with me either by calling or by sending me a WhatsApp message. So what is our third principle? The third legal principle that the courts use when dividing assets between divorcing spouses is the needs and the standard of living. Beyond contribution, the courts will look at the needs of each of the spouses and also the living standard that the spouses have during the marriage. The needs include things like medical care, medical aid. We look at some of the living expenses, something to do with food, clothes. We also look at entertainment. Um, we also look at the general maintenance of the place where the person is or the spouse is staying. We also look at rental. If the spouse is going to live in a rented apartment. One of the issues that the courts will look at is to try to put the spouse in the position he or she would have occupied had the marriage continued to exist. So the next, which is the fourth principle that the courts look at is the conduct of the parties. Let us talk about the conduct of the parties. This is not about assigning blame with regard to the breakdown of the marriage or the reason why the people or the spouses are divorcing. Instead, the court will be focusing on the financial conduct of one of the parties or all of the parties. Hiding assets or being dishonest about one's finances will be viewed negatively by the courts. Being dishonest to have an impact in the way in which the property is going to be divided. So it is very important that you don't show some elements of dishonest in your dealing. Once again, these principles have been discussed in detail in the article I have referred to you above. You just need to go in the description box and click the link to the article, and then you can be able to read it in detail and offer your views in that blog. Then before I go to the last principle, I encourage you once again to subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell, like and comment so that we give YouTube the reason to spread this video to a larger audience. The last principle which the courts will consider when dividing assets is equality of spouses. Underlying all these issues that I have discussed is the principle of equality. The Constitution of Zimbabwe and international law to which Zimbabwe is a signatory emphasize gender equality during the marriage and during dissolution of the marriage. This means that there is need to consider the unique circumstances of each case and avoid discriminating practices. So whenever you are involved in a divorce and there is a contest with regard to the sharing of property, you must understand that the courts will employ equality when it is determining the division of property. So it is very important for you to do that. So these are the five principles that the courts apply when dividing assets between divorcing spouses. Before I share with you an example of a case where the principles that I have discussed above were applied, I once again encourage you to subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell, like the video, and also comment on the video. Give me your questions in the comment section so that we can further ventilate these issues. The case that I am going to share with you, in which some of the principles that I have discussed above were applied, is the case of Mora versus Mora, SC 89/20. In this case, the wife filed for divorce, citing irretrievable breakdown of marriage And in the summons and the declaration, the wife also claimed a share, a 50% share in the matrimonial property, which was a house that was being owned by the husband. The husband contested the claim by the wife for 50%, alleging that he solely acquired the property without the assistance of the wife. The High Court decided that the house be shared 50% to the wife and 50% to the husband. The reasons that the High Court highlighted include, among other things, the needs of the wife. The court found that the wife was now advanced in age and she can no longer work for herself. She was 65 years old, and as such, her age would require that she also get a fair share of the assets that were owned by the husband. At the same time, the court looked at the contribution that the wife made. The wife indicated that she never directly contributed to the acquisition and the maintenance of the house, but she indirectly contributed by doing the housewife work, whereby she was doing the cleaning, cooking, washing, taking care of her own children and the children who were brought from outside by the husband through his extramarital affairs. She also took care of those kids, and also she highlighted to the court that she was sick, and the husband never contested that the wife was sick. At the same time, the court also looked at the issue of equality. It looked at the constitution and also international law, and then arriving at a decision that there was need for equality in terms of the treatment between the parties. It also looked at the conduct of the parties. The husband was found to have acquired assets secretly without the knowledge of the wife, and disposing those properties without the knowledge of the wife. And also, it was found that the husband was now staying at a certain house, and the status of that house was not disclosed to the court, whether it was a rented or owned property. No one was, the court was not put in the know. The husband never disclosed as to the status of that property. And in this case, one of the principles was that the duration of the marriage was also the duration of the marriage of the parties was also looked at. Their marriage was for 50 years, and that was close to 5 decades, and the court found that the longer the period of marriage, the greater the value of indirect contribution and the lesser the value of direct contribution. So basically, the court looked at all these principles and then awarded 50% to the wife and 50% to the husband. Before I go to the first, the practical tips that I want to share with you, I encourage you to subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell, so that whenever I upload a video like this, YouTube will be able to notify you. So what can you, the practical tips? So what can you do to prepare? The first thing that you need to do is to gather all the financial documents. You need to be honest and transparent about your properties. The second thing that you need to do is to think about your contributions, whether direct or indirect contribution. The third thing that you must consider is your needs. what you require to maintain a reasonable standard of living. You need to have that at the back of the mind. Then finally, it is always advisable to consult a legal practitioner before you get engaged in these matters. Then in the next segment, I'm going to discuss the costly mistakes that you are supposed to avoid. What are the costly mistakes that you are supposed to avoid? Getting into disputes over the division of property can be costly, both financially and emotionally. By understanding the principles that we have discussed here, you are likely to, by understanding the principles and being reasonable in your expectations, you can significantly reduce conflicts and potentially reach settlements faster. Remember, fair doesn't always mean equal. It does mean considering all the circumstances. Don't go away so that I give you my last word. Dividing property during divorce is a very complex process. But if you understand all the principles that I have discussed here, you can approach this matter with confidence and work towards a more equitable outcome. Remember, seeking professional legal advice is very important. We recommend that you seek legal advice from your legal practitioner of choice. You can use the numbers on the screen to get in touch with us so that you may assist you in your case. If you have got a pending case involving division of property, we encourage you to use the numbers on the screen so that you can book a consultation meeting with us, and then we iron out the issues with you. Remember to subscribe, like the videos, and offer your comments in the comment section. Thank you so much.